From Grangeville to Lapway, we've got your District 2 breakdown right here on the Palouse Prepcast with Garrison Hardie.
That's right. Welcome in. It's the Palouse Prepcast on IdahoSports.com, your number one source for everything District 2. And we're going to be here each and every week breaking it down with the man, Garrison Hardie. All right, I'm gonna set it up. Listen to this voice. It's incredible. Garrison, go ahead.
Well, geez, no pressure. Thanks so much for having me on, Brandon. It's good to be back here with IdahoSports.com.
Yeah, it's going to be so much fun because, at IdahoSports.com, we are a statewide network. We try to give coverage everywhere we can, but sometimes some things fall through the cracks. And so by regionalizing our weekly podcasts and having an expert that lives in each district, that's going to make sure that all the teams get the fair coverage they deserve. I know in District 2 sometimes the players and coaches and fans feel like that they don't always get their fair shake, right?
Right, absolutely. You look down at Boise, you got the big 5A and 4A schools down there that typically gather up a large portion of the media coverage, and that's just the way it is. But up here at District 2, we definitely have some gems of players, gems of programs that deserve their recognition. And Jason Hansen and he's the guy who'll be joining me in the booth this year for IdahoSports.com. We've seen our fair share of fantastic football and memorable highlights. Just the kind of stuff that really gets the blood pumping. I'm really excited to have football coming back this once again. And again, District 2 has its great share of football.
And I think what I love most about District 2 is this kind of, you've got two extremes here. You've got the big schools, Lewiston, a 5A school, Moscow, a 4A, and then it's all the 1A, D1, D2 schools, your Genesees and your Logos and all the small schools. So it's really the big giant and then the little guys.
Absolutely. Yeah. And also from even more up north, you've got Coeur d'Alene coming down as well. The Vikings are always a power. And typically we will be, assuming Coeur d'Alene's coming down to Lewiston, we'll be at that game. And that's always definitely a hot ticket item. But yeah, the 1A side of things, we have 1A D1 and 1A D2. A lot of that mix up here with the White Pine. That's what Jason and I end up covering a lot. Jason, he's a former head coach for Genesee, so he's definitely has a lot of the history and the background of the programs here. But we'll also get over to the 2A side of things when we make our way over to Grangeville to see what they're up to. They're always a solid program and have great fan support and a beautiful backdrop, might I add, with the pristine mountains right behind. And yeah, so it definitely an interesting mix. And it's always a lot of fun going out to cover those smaller programs that some people might forget about.
Yeah, and you'll see a little bit of crossover. We have our District 1 podcast, the North Idaho Prepcast with Ryan Skaggs. But like you said, in so many instances, Districts 1 and 2 are kind of combined at the 5A and the 4A and the 2A levels because there's just not enough teams up north. So we will get some crossover for sure between Districts 1 and 2. Scenery-wise, I don't think there's a better-looking district in terms of the geography and all the beautiful, you mentioned the backdrop at Grangeville. This past spring, I went and broadcasted the 1A state baseball tournament in Orofino, which, you've got the river right beyond right field out there at the baseball field, and it's just an incredible part of Idaho.
Absolutely. It's a I've lived all over the country, and I can say that Idaho has some of the most unique terrain and backdrops and just gorgeous scenery that I've ever been around. And when you have some of that, I'll throw in Deary. We went out to Deary for a game a couple of years ago against Kendrick, and the backdrop was just fantastic. And the view from the press box, is tough to beat. And then even looking at Logos's field this year, it's out in the beautiful rolling hills just outside of Moscow. So there's some great scenery, just as you said. It's a kind of a unique part of the country, part of Idaho. And we're just really blessed to be able to bring you the action from up here.
Yeah, so you mentioned it. Kind of the big story heading into the fall sports season is Logos will be competing in varsity football for the first time ever. They've had a JV program the last couple of years, and now they finally built up the numbers enough to where they have a varsity program, which is going to be super exciting. And we're going to really dive into the nuts and bolts of what's going on in District 2 next week and kind of tell you some of the teams and players that we're keeping an eye out for. But this week, it's kind of a get to know you. We want to learn a little bit more about our District 2 expert, Garrison Hardie. So you mentioned you've been all over the country. You're in Moscow currently. Are you an Idaho native or are you a transplant?
I'm a transplant, but I would say I'm a Pacific Northwest native. I was born in Olympia, Washington, before, way back when, the good old days. And then with my dad's job as a school administrator, we just kind of went where the job was. So, we wound up in California. We actually did live in Moscow for a year when I was in 5th grade. But again, that was more of a transitional kind of year. And then we ended up to Oklahoma, San Jose, California, North Carolina, most recently Charlotte, North Carolina. And then I moved eventually back in 2015 to Lewiston, Idaho. Over my travels, I've always loved sports, played sports all the way through high school, played some football into the collegiate level. And I've just always loved the team and the camaraderie that is built through sports. And it just so happens that I was blessed with a voice like this. And people in high school were always saying, "Oh, you should be a broadcaster. You've got the face for it." No, I'm just kidding. So I eventually just started doing PA announcing for my high school out in North Carolina. And then when I got out to Lewiston, I found out about IdahoSports.com, and here I am.
Yeah, so you mentioned the face for broadcasting. So there's a couple of different ways you'll be able to get the Palouse Prepcast each and every week. If you want the audio only, you can get it at IdahoSports.com, or also subscribe or download it wherever you get your podcasts, Apple, Google, etc. If you want to see the video, you want to see what we look like, you can go to the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and also our Facebook page. We're going to be putting the video of all these Prepcasts up there each week as well. So no excuses.
You've been warned, fans. No, I'm just kidding.
Right. So we were kind of joking. I was talking earlier today to Wayne DeZubak. He's the co-host of our SIC Prepcast, longtime broadcaster down in Boise. And, I said, he still looks suave at his age and debonair. And I said, if we ever did a Men of IdahoSports.com calendar, I said, Wayne, you're batting leadoff. You're going January. Garrison, I got to tell you, you're probably closing it. You're December, I think, right?
Oh man, the Christmas time. That's my favorite time of year anyways. I've got the red hair and whatnot going for me. 'Tis the season. I'm all aboard.
Yeah, so that's a work in progress. We'll work on that. The Men of IdahoSports.com calendar.
Perfect.
I think everybody's going to throw it away by March, but
understandable. I don't blame them.
Right. So you mentioned you played college football. Where'd you play at?
So I actually played here in Lewiston for a club team that was called the Lewis Clark Valley Loggers. What they were was a combination of Walla Walla Community College and Lewis Clark State College. So if you went to either one of those schools, you could play for the Loggers. Now, since then, they've become an actual NCAA affiliate. So the guidelines and whatnot come into play now. But back then, as long as you went to those two schools, you kept up the grades, you were good to play. We played at some D3 schools. We played some junior colleges all across the state of Washington. It was really a fantastic experience. And I thoroughly blessed that I got to be a part of it. And we had about, I would say 40 guys, but by way of injury, it kind of headed down towards 30. So it really started to feel like the high school days towards the end of that. But all in all, it was a great experience for some guys who may not have gotten the chance to play at the collegiate level were it not for that program. Getting the chance to play in the Kibbe Dome. That was a cool experience in of itself. Some of the high school kids that I cover get that chance. Last year we got to watch Moscow and Lewiston go at it in quite a game. That was my collegiate experience. Long way of saying it.
The Kibby Dome is on the bucket list. I haven't been in the Kibby Dome yet to watch a game or to broadcast a game. I've been to Holt Arena. I've been to Albertson Stadium at Boise State. I have not been to the Kibby Dome yet, but I've heard incredible things. And just a couple years ago, I think the Kibby Dome was the host of probably one of the greatest Idaho high school football games of all time, that championship between Coeur d'Alene and Rigby that went into several overtimes. I think the final score was like 52-50 or something like that.
Oh gosh, to be a broadcaster in one of those games, by the end of it, your voice is really starting to give out, especially as the quarters, it gets later and later in the game. You know, you get a little more high pitched towards the end of it. But yeah, we've seen our fair share of shootouts. That's for sure.
So football, probably your favorite sport to play, I'm assuming.
Yep, basketball was a close second. My dad was my coach all the way through high school, so he instilled a love of sports in me. But yeah, football, I just was better at it. Yeah, with basketball, I wasn't a very good ball handler. So football, I was just tall, and I ran out and caught the ball, and that was that.
So what is your favorite sport to broadcast? Is it also football?
Ooh, I haven't broadcast a game for basketball on IdahoSports.com. Maybe that'll change this year. But I'd say football, it's tough to beat. You know, that time of year, the air is starting to get cool and crisp out. The leaves are changing. You know, holidays are coming up, and on top of that, you know, you get to cover one of the great American pastimes. And I will say the pace of football is sometimes nice in that, you know, you get to say, and so carries the ball for a gain of 5, and that's the end of the play. And then you take a breather. And whereas with basketball, you're kind of just trying to keep up. So I would say probably football gets the slight edge.
Okay, so you've done Lewiston games for us in the past, and then some Moscow games, and then you've done those 8-man games as well. What do you like better to broadcast, 11-man football or 8-man?
Oh gosh. You're really putting me on the spot today. I would say
these are the hard-hitting questions you can expect each week on the Palouse Prepcast.
That's right. Tune in. I would probably say I would go with 11-man, just simply because, you know, I've been a part of some, I would say, tighter ball games, because with 11-man, you don't get as many breakaway plays per se. And some might say, well, Garrison, that sounds less exciting. But to me, with the, 11-man, the field is shrunken because the number of bodies all over the field. So you're going to see, generally speaking, closer ball games as the game comes to a head. Whereas in 8-man, if a team has a couple really good athletes and they can get to the edge, sometimes you could see a game over by halftime. And that's no knock on any of the teams up here. Sometimes one team just has a ton of good athletes and they're able to take advantage of the wide open spaces. And, we've seen that in Prairie. Prairie is just a powerhouse up here in the White Pine League. And Lapway recently has really been kicking things up a notch. And so they've got some great athletes, but I would probably lean a little bit towards 11-man.
Yeah, what is the secret at Lapway? They are just like every sport, every ball they pick up, they just seem to do so well. What's the secret there?
Oh, let me tell you, they eat, breathe, and live that stuff, the sports side of things. They are just phenomenal athletes. They work hard at it. They love the game. And on top of that, they're getting some great coaching as well from people who have gone before them. And they're very proud as well of their program. So a lot goes into it. As in basketball, I've been the play-by-play PA announcer for Genesee for my dad. He coaches there in the varsity side of things. And we get to see Lapway twice a year there. And they are just so disciplined and they play the game the right way, I would just say. And that's true in football too. They just go out and work hard, hit hard. They give their all. They leave it all out there 100% of the time. And I think, that sounds pretty generalized way to put it, but the proof is in the pudding. And they won the basketball championship again last year for the boys, and the girls looked phenomenal too.
Yeah, absolutely. So you've bounced around the country a lot. Do you have a favorite like pro sports team or college sports team?
I've got to go with the Cougs, Washington State University. My dad went to WSU, graduated from there. So ever since I was little, it was always fight, fight, fight for Washington State. Through the ups and downs, a lot of downs, but by and large, I've always supported the Cougs, and I've gotten it. It's just an awesome thing to be back here in that community and to be able to go there for game days. Most recently, I was there I remember the number 5 USC Trojans came into town to take on the number 16th ranked Cougs. This was when Leach was still the head of things, and Jihad Woods forced that fumble to end the game. The play that was the most exciting sports environment I've ever been a part of. So when the Cougs are rocking and rolling, it's tough to beat. As far as pro goes, I always pull for the Seahawks. I really like Russell Wilson. Think he's a stand-up guy, and I miss the Legion of Boom. And hopefully we can get our defense and offensive line figured out. That always seems to be the issue the past couple of years. So those would be my 2 football teams that I'm with.
Okay. So I'm like you, I'm a transplant. I'm from Montana originally. So Wazoo is kind of a sore subject there because of Ryan Leaf, who, he went there and had a nice career, but really didn't represent the state of Montana very well. Kind of gave us a bad reputation. So
Right. No, and Coug fans too, whenever we hear Ryan Leaf, we cringe a little bit. It seemed, I'm not sure how he's doing recently, but it seemed as though he wrote a book called 596 Switch, which is what the play they were going to run against Michigan on the final play of that Rose Bowl. But the play obviously didn't work. But I certainly hope he's doing well currently. But yeah, a bit of a sore subject for both sides, I guess.
Yeah, hang tight for a sec. I've got a prop I want to bring in. While I step away for a moment, let me get your opinion on, as a former college football player, the new NIL. See, now when I grew up, NIL stood for National Letter of Intent, or National Intent Letter. Now it's name, image, and likeness, right? And college athletes are now able to be compensated by companies. As a former college athlete, where do you stand on that? I mean, obviously it would have been nice when you were in school, but
Right. Well, I actually did a thesis on this in high school on whether college athletes should be paid for their likeness or whatever have you. And I argued they should. When you look at the money these athletes are generating for their institutions, whether it be, we look at WSU, Mike Leach was getting paid $5 million a year. Nick Saban just signed an $84 million extension to be at Alabama till 2028. You look at the money they generate for the academic side of things of the program. I remember watching the U on ESPN's 30 for 30, and the players would comment saying, look at all these new academic buildings going up. I guess I brought that in. And it's true. When the U was at the height of their power, enrollment ballooned to heights that had never been seen before. And, and then I watched the Fab Five, another ESPN 30 for 30 classic. And, the guys weren't living like rock stars against popular belief, even though they were being treated as such. And I remember a line that Chris Webber had, where basically they were walking in downtown Chicago, forget where they were exactly, but they crossed a storefront, and at that storefront was his jersey being sold for $100. And he said, so they get to profit from my, what I've been doing on the court, and I can't even afford that kind of thing. So, when he said that really kind of hit home that, gosh, these guys are putting in they're essentially full-time employees of the university. They put in 40-hour work weeks, and they, until now, weren't able to get anything out of it, essentially, except a free education. But let's be real. Why are they there in the first place? They were there to play sports, and then some of them hopefully go on to the next level. That's how these institutions treated those guys. So I think this is a great move by the NCAA, and I've been pretty critical of the NCAA for quite some time. So I think this is a great move, especially for the players. And now the argument can be made on the other side of, okay, now agents are going to come into the mix now, and there's going to bring this whole other multitude of other issues that haven't been seen in college sports and whatnot. And I think those are fair questions to ask. And this is just going to be a learning process for everyone involved, and we'll have to come to that as it goes.
Yeah, a lot of it we'll just take on as it happens, and a lot of it we'll figure out on the fly. I think that was very eloquently said, and I couldn't agree more. I think it's been long overdue that college athletes get compensated. I would have had this prop prior to the start of us recording, but I didn't know we were going to start talking about Wazoo football. I've got the book you talked about.
Hey, there it is. There it is. By the way, if you haven't read it, folks, it's a great book, 596 Switch, and there's a lot of
autographed by Ryan Leaf. Go Cougs.
You one-upped me on that one. Mine's not autographed, so I'm not jealous at all. No biggie.
Right.
but yeah, guys, if you haven't read that book, you're a Coug fan, I highly recommend it. It really gives a lot of in-depth story, and you get to learn a little bit more about Ryan Leaf, who he is as a person, and I kind of had a newfound respect for him when I read that book.
Yeah, he is a very complex person, and it is fascinating to read things from his perspective. So if you're listening to the audio only, you missed it. I have a copy of the book by Ryan Leaf, 596 Switch, and it's autographed as well. So you definitely want to check out the video on YouTube or Facebook to see what the book actually looks like. Last question for you, Garrison. It's a two-part question. As a football player, did you have a game day ritual? I know athletes sometimes have a routine they like to get into.
Right. Yeah. Typically, I would try to get in a good nap on game day, just to kind of wake up feeling a little bit more refreshed and ready to go. And then when I was en route to the stadium or wherever that may be, I put in some music and really tried to visualize routes I would be running. I was a tight end wide receiver, so I visualized my routes. I visualized what kind of coverages the other team would be employing to try and stop me on those routes, different swim moves that I would perform at the line of scrimmage, blocking schemes, because unfortunately as a tight end you have to be there with the big guys, and I got thrown into that mix. So different blocking schemes and whatnot, different assignments for those blocking schemes, trying to remember plays that were series, go through that in my mind and visualize it. So really it was that nap, get a light meal or whatnot. You would eat big the night before, so you'd have all those carbs and whatnot. But before game, it was all just about visualization and then going out and making it happen, hopefully.
Okay. And then the second part of the question is, now as a broadcaster, do you have a routine or a game day ritual when you're getting ready to broadcast a game?
Just wing it. No, I'm just kidding. The day of, the week of, Jason and I will try to split up the work. So he'll try to get a hold of one of the coaches. I'll try to get a hold of the other coach. We typically send an email, try to give a phone call, just to kind of get their thoughts on a couple of key points that we want to build up before the game. Who's a player you want to watch out for? What are you looking for from the other team? What are you kind of keying in on? Obviously, you want to ask questions that aren't going to give away a game plan, because that wouldn't be good. But you just want to get in the mind of the coaches and the players beforehand as best you can. And then other than that, it's just jotting down a bunch of talking points. And then fortunately enough, we've got you on the other end coming out with all this great content on IdahoSports.com. Check us out, folks. And then name pronunciation is another big one. Before the game, we always check with the coaches just to make sure we pronounce everything right. See, there I go, just right there. And that is definitely something as broadcasters we want to keep an eye on.
Yeah, always got to get the kids' names right, because it's mom and dad and grandma and grandpa that are watching or listening.
Yeah, if I was a player and had something like this, which I didn't, by the way, this is a huge, I think, an awesome thing for the kids. You want to make, if you hear your name being pronounced wrong, that really that would annoy me. So we don't want to do that. We want to make it memorable for the kids, for the parents, and that's what IdahoSports.com is all about.
Yeah, so you kind of mentioned it, Garrison. Right now, we're smack dab in the middle of our season previews for all of the football teams across the state of Idaho. We've got probably about half up on the website so far. A couple of coaches are still sending in their preview forms to us, and we'll keep adding those. So just keep checking back to IdahoSports.com every day, and there'll be, once the season actually starts, something new. That's our big mantra this fall is every day when you log on IdahoSports.com, you're going to see something new that you didn't see the day before. And so just pretty much save it in your favorites and just check it out each and every day throughout the fall sports season and the winter as well. And IdahoSports.com is going to be the place to be for all of your great content, including the Palouse Prepcast, your top stop for all the District 2 talk each week with Garrison Hardie. This was a great debut episode. I'm excited to do this every week.
Absolutely, Brandon. I'm really looking forward to kicking off, literally, and seeing how the season unfolds here in District 2 and all across IdahoSports.com. And that's the great thing I would say about Idaho Sports is not only can you keep an eye on things here in District 2, you can then go over to another game happening somewhere else across the state. If there's another school you want to check out and action that's going on, we have a lot of great photographers. We have a lot of great broadcasters bringing the action to you. It's really a cool thing to see. So stay tuned, folks.
Yeah, and that'll do it for this edition of the Palouse Prepcast. Again, you can check it out at IdahoSports.com. Download it wherever you get your podcasts. Also catch the video on the IdahoSports.com YouTube channel and Facebook page. For Garrison Hardie, I'm Brandon Baney. Thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you next week.